In the heart of Ndemiri, a fictional African village cradled between two towering hills and bordered by the roaring Oni River, lived a boy named Ekong. Though his name meant warrior, Ekong was a small, frail boy with a limp in his left leg caused by a childhood illness. To most of the villagers, Ekong was an afterthought, a boy destined for a life of insignificance. But within him burned a secret dream. He wanted to be a master drummer. Drums in Ndemiri were sacred. They were more than instruments, they were the village's voice, calling to the ancestors and carrying messages through rhythm. The master drummer, Uforo, was a figure of immense respect and power, capable of commanding emotions with every beat of his hands. One evening, as the villagers gathered for a festival, Ekong crept forward, clutching a small drum he had carved from scraps of wood and animal hide. The drum was crude, its sound uneven, but to Ekong, it was his treasure. "Master Uforo," he said, bowing low, his voice trembling with hope. "Please teach me. I want to learn the drum." The square fell silent. Uforo turned, his tall frame casting a long shadow over the boy. "Teach you?" Uforo sneered. "The drum is not for the weak. Look at you, small hands, a limp leg." Laughter erupted from the crowd, and some of the children began to mimic Ekong's limp, exaggerating their movements. Humiliated, Ekong fled the square, clutching his little drum tightly. He ran until he reached the banks of the Oni River. There, under the moonlight, he let the tears flow freely. But even as he cried, he picked up his drum and began to play, softly at first. The river seemed to hum in response, its gentle currents forming a rhythm that matched his own. The next night, Ekong returned to the riverbank, determined to practice until he was worthy. As he drummed, an old woman emerged from the shadows. She was Ndemiri, a healer and seer who lived on the edge of the forest. Known for her strange ways and deep wisdom, she was both respected and feared by the villagers. "Why do you drum alone, child?" she asked, her voice as soft as the wind rustling through leaves. Ekong told her of his dream and how Uforo and the villagers had laughed at him. Ndemiri nodded, her eyes sparkling like the stars above. "The drum does not seek perfection, my son. It seeks truth. And truth lies not in the hands, but in the heart." She handed him a small calabash of oil. "Rub this on your hands before you play. It will ease your pain. And remember, when the world mocks you, play louder. Let your rhythm speak for your soul." Ekong practiced tirelessly for months, his skill growing steadily. "Ekong," his father said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Why do you waste your time with this nonsense? We need you on the farm. The harvest is failing, and every hand is needed. The drum will not fill our bellies." "I will make the drum my life, father," Ekong replied, his voice breaking. "I will bring honor to our family." Ekong shook his head. "The drum will bring you nothing but shame. You are chasing a dream that will never be yours." Those words cut deeper than any insult from the villagers. For weeks, Ekong stopped playing. His drum sat untouched by the riverbank, gathering dust. The fire in his heart flickered, weakened by doubt and despair. One night, Ndemiri visited Ekong at the farm. "Why have you stopped playing, child?" she asked. "My father is right. If you do not fight for it, you will spend your life wondering what could have been. The ancestors chose you for this path. Will you deny them?" Her words reignited the flame in Ekong's heart. The next morning, he returned to the riverbank and began to play once more. Ndemiri told Ekong of the sacred Iroko tree deep in the forest, whose wood produced the most powerful drums. But the tree was guarded by Inyanga, a serpent spirit that tested the worthiness of those who dared approach. Determined, Ekong ventured into the forest. The journey was perilous, with dense underbrush and the constant hum of unseen creatures. When he reached the Iroko, the serpent emerged, its golden scales shimmering in the sunlight. "Why have you come?" Inyanga hissed, its voice echoing like thunder. "I seek the wood of the Iroko to make a drum that will carry my voice to the ancestors," Ekong replied, his voice steady. The serpent's eyes narrowed. "Then you must prove your worth. Play for me the rhythm of courage, the rhythm of sorrow, and the rhythm of hope." Ekong closed his eyes and began to play. He poured his heart into every beat, summoning the courage he had found in his darkest moments, the sorrow of his father's disappointment, and the unyielding hope that had kept him going. The serpent swayed to his rhythm, then nodded. "You are worthy," it said before disappearing into the shadows. With the wood from the Iroko tree, Ekong crafted a drum unlike any other. Its voice was deep and resonant, carrying the weight of his journey. On the day of the harvest festival, he carried his drum to the square and challenged Uforo to a duel. The villagers gathered, whispering in disbelief. Uforo smirked, confident in his victory. The duel began, with Uforo playing first. His rhythm was flawless, commanding the crowd's attention. Then it was Ekong's turn. He closed his eyes and played, not with his hands but with his soul. His rhythm told a story of pain, loss, resilience, and triumph. The villagers were spellbound, their hearts stirred by the raw emotion in his music. When the final beat echoed into silence, Uforo bowed his head. "You have the spirit of the ancestors in you," he said. "You are the voice of Ndemiri now." Years later, Ekong became a symbol of hope and resilience, his name spoken across the land. On the night of his greatest performance, during a festival of unity attended by thousands, he stood before the crowd with his drum. As he began to play, the heavens opened, and rain poured down on the drought-stricken land. The crowd erupted in cheers, their spirits lifted. Ekong raised his drum high, tears streaming down his face. "This is the rhythm of destiny," he said, his voice echoing through the crowd. "When we beat as one, there is no dream we cannot reach." His story became legend, a reminder that even the smallest hands could shape the future and that destiny belongs to those who fight for it.